Hello everyone, my name is Jason, I am an ISFP, and in this video, I'm going to get controversial. I have been wanting to make a video on the topic of personality type and children for a while, but I kind of was hesitating because I didn't really want to put myself out there a little bit on some of my opinions because I think that there's probably some disagreement, some significant disagreement in the personality type community on this particular issue. But I was watching a video on another YouTube channel called Sarah ISFP, and she said in one of her videos exactly what I think too. And I thought, you know what, I just need to say this and go ahead and put it out there because I think it's an interesting topic. And that is the topic of personality type and children. Now, I was on a Facebook page and I made a comment about my 9-year-old daughter. And in that comment, I stated what I believe her personality type is. And I got a few people who really came at that comment with their claws out, making it known that it is not possible, in their opinion, to know a personality type of someone who is only 9 years old because personality type is not yet formed at that age. And so I wanted to take a moment to just throw out some of my thoughts on this topic of personality type and children. Now, first of all, let me say that I am no trained psychologist. I don't have any schooling at all on this topic. However, I have 5 children. They are 20 years old, 19 years old, 17 years old, 15 years old, and 9 years old. And I have the privilege of being able to look back over the years of their lives and really analyze this question. Can I see signs, consistent behaviors of their current known personality type? Can I look back in time and see consistent behaviors of that type from a young age to now? And here is my answer. Yes. Yes, I can. I have come to the conclusion that I'm willing to discuss and debate about, and I'm willing to have my mind changed. But I have come to the conclusion that personality type is simply the product of the order of our cognitive functions, which I don't think there's any controversy there. But that the order of our cognitive functions is brain wiring that is set from birth. Now, I will agree with these things for those who automatically would say that's crazy. Let me tell you where I think you and I will agree if you think I'm crazy for saying what I just said. I will agree that for many people, you will not be able to know what personality type they are until they are older. I will agree that the cognitive functions do not all develop, that we're not born with them fully developed, and that for some of our cognitive functions, it could take decades before they really begin to develop. I agree with that 100%. I also would agree with the idea that environment and upbringing, while I do not believe it changes personality type, because I do believe that is brain wiring, it nevertheless can greatly affect how your personality type comes out or how your cognitive functions present themselves. So let me go over some of these issues and explain where I'm coming from, and then I'll be interested to get your comments so I can see, your opinions. So first of all, let me say that with my belief that the order, the function stack, the order that the cognitive functions go is brain wiring and cannot be changed. I would say that I evidence that through those of my children whose personality types displayed clear manifestations at extremely young ages. So let me give you some examples. I have an INTP daughter. My INTP daughter is 19 years old. There is no doubt in my mind that she is an INTP. And when she was young, I didn't know anything about personality type psychology. And so I didn't know she was an INTP. To me, she was just way different than I was, way different than my INFP wife is, well, in most respects, and then way different than, in a lot of respects, than I wanted her to be. And so we clashed a lot and conflicted a lot. And I parented her largely through a lens of emotion. And now that I understand what it means to be an INTP, I realize that that was a failed attempt. That was a failed philosophy of parenting for her. And I knew it was failing. I knew that most of my parenting attempts with her were failing when she was very young. I just couldn't understand why. I have an ISTP son who has always displayed some of the characteristics of being an ISTP. He's always had that sort of quick reflex, sort of ability to take in through his extroverted sensing the physical world and process it quickly through the lens of introverted thinking and then deal with it very, very quickly, okay? So he has learned a lot of things that he was able to teach himself on his own. He's our only child who largely taught himself to read. I remember when he was very young, like we were still sitting him in the front part of the cart where you put your little kid, and at the grocery store, and he looked at a sign and he began to read it partly. And we had never tried to teach him reading yet at all. He was so small. And he has always been able to take in the external world and then process it through that lens of logic and figure it out. At a very early age, he was extremely adept at video games. His reflexes and his ability to process that information and then input what he wanted from his brain to his fingers to the controller to the system has been very, he's always been really good at it, and he's always had it from a very young age, okay? My 9-year-old, whom I believe to be an ESFP, has always been an entertainer, and I understand that not all ESFPs are entertainers, but she is. She's always been able to find a way to take things that are just mundane, really, and turn them into something entertaining, funny. She just walks in the room and things are more enjoyable and entertaining just because she walked in the door. And I could give many more examples, but I don't want this to go on forever. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I could see their personality types in them from a much younger age. Now, I didn't know it at the time because I didn't understand personality type theory. But now that they're older and I know for sure what personality type they are, I can see so many examples. Again, I could give lists and lists of examples where the characteristics of their cognitive functions were manifesting themselves quite clearly, in fact, at extremely, extremely young ages, okay? So we're talking like 2, 3, 4 and up. Now, at the same time, I have an INFP son and an ISFP daughter who did not manifest those cognitive functions as early. So that goes back to the whole, I understand that our cognitive functions take time to develop and they develop differently. And in different people, they develop slower or faster or whatever, okay? But I kind of think of it this way. A child is born with legs that are clearly created, their muscle structure, their bone structure, the ligaments, the tendons, they are clearly created for the purpose of walking. The child, a human child when born, is clearly born as a creature designed to walk. They are built to walk, they are wired to walk, but they can't walk. They can't walk when they're born. It takes a great deal of time. But over time, 10 months, 11 months, a year, for some longer, they develop that ability and we begin to see it in them. We know that they're wired and built to walk, but they're not capable of manifesting that ability until they've lived for a while and experienced. It's the same thing with the cognitive functions. You're wired with these cognitive functions, I believe, from birth. For some people, some of their cognitive functions, perhaps they're just their hero function, maybe their hero and child function, whatever, their first and second, third, they will begin to show up at different times in their lives and in different ways and to different degrees. But that doesn't mean that they weren't always there. It doesn't mean that they weren't always wired that way. So the child, I believe, is born wired with their brain functions in that order, and then they begin to develop them as they live. And depending on their environment, they will develop differently. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Do I believe that parenting can turn an INTP into an, ISFP? No, absolutely not. It's not possible. Nevertheless, there are aspects of being an INTP that when my child was young and I was young and less wise than I am now, I saw as flaws that I tried to correct. So I was not always encouraging my INTP daughter to be the best her that she could be, or to be the best INTP that she could be. I was trying to turn her into an ISFP. Now, fortunately, I learned and I became wiser and I grew out of that. But imagine a parent who sees their child's cognitive functions as flaws and is constantly trying to tell the child the way you think and the way you behave is wrong. And then that parent is constantly trying to turn that child's cognitive functions into different cognitive functions. That child will grow up repressing certain cognitive functions because that child will believe that those cognitive functions are inherently bad, okay? And then that child also may try to develop cognitive functions that are much lower in the child's cognitive function stack because the child wants to please mom or dad or fit in better with society, right? I mean, we live in a very extroverted thinking society. So for those people who do not have extroverted thinking high in their function stack, it does not mean that they won't develop a certain measure of extroverted thinking because the society and the school system sort of forces them to, okay? So there may be people with low extroverted thinking in their stack who are actually better at it than they normally would be because society is cultivating that within them. While at the same time, society may be repressing or encouraging the children to repress certain other cognitive functions that they have higher in their stack because the society is saying that cognitive function is bad. I've heard it said that Japan is a very NT society, so it really supports people who have high thinking and high intuition, whereas America is a much more TE society and maybe a bit of an SE society too. More of a, I would say TESESI society. And so intuition is going to be sometimes more pushed down or repressed. It's not going to be always as welcomed. And neither also sometimes will the feeling functions. They will not always be as welcomed, I think, as some of the thinking functions. Now we can debate that. It really doesn't matter at what functions our society or another society supports or represses. But the idea is to say that if a child is born with their cognitive functions pre-wired, but the society or their parents or their general environment teaches them to repress certain cognitive functions, then you might see that child behave in a way that doesn't seem consistent with what their personality type or their function stack, their brain wiring really is. So when I look at my children and I see these clear indicators that my INTP daughter and my ISTP son and my ESFP daughter, I know she's only 9. Go ahead, leave your comments on that. That when I see what to me are clear examples that show that they have always had this cognitive function stack in this order from a very, very young age, what I come away with is that I believe that children are born that way and that environment affects how that looks and how that comes out. But nevertheless, a person is wired the way they are wired. I see a lot of people who ask the question, can we change our personality type? Is it possible for our personality type to change? Well, for your personality type to change, your cognitive function stack would have to change. And I honestly don't think that can happen. What I think is more likely is that you grow up largely behaving through the way you are trained and taught. You're largely behaving like a different personality type. And then somewhere along the line, you begin to realize what personality type you really are. Now, I can't possibly account for every single human being's experience, and all of the, yeah, but with me it happened this way, and with me it happened that way. I get it. We're all going to feel like we're different, but the reality is either I'm right or I'm not. Either we're born with our cognitive functions pre-wired, or we're not. But my belief comes not just from the fact that I want it to be that way. I don't really care, honestly. My belief comes from the fact that I see it. I see it in people, young people who I've had the privilege of watching grow up, and I can look back over their lives and I can say, to me, there's clear evidence you've always been this personality type. And by the way, I can say the same for myself. I mean, I didn't know what an ISFP was until I was probably 36 years old, 35 years old or so. But when I look back over my life, I can see clear examples of being an ISFP from an extremely young age, extremely young age. So you can go back and watch all of my other videos and just know that a lot of the things that I talk about in those videos have been true of me for as long as I can remember. They've been true of me since I was just a little kid. And that's just more evidence in my mind. Now, I know other people don't report the same. I've heard other people who say, "Oh no, I'm totally different," or I didn't think this way, or whatever. And okay, maybe it was upbringing, maybe it wasn't, maybe I'm just dead wrong, but I don't think I am. I'm really becoming convinced that our cognitive functions are wired from birth. So I've been wanting to just kind of put that out there because, well, for two reasons, really. Because I don't see a lot of videos on this topic from the other, from other personality type YouTubers much. And so I just want to throw that out because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are interested in the concept and are wondering, but also because I am a parent of children, right? And those children do have personality types. I know that I can parent them better if I understand how their brain is wired. Sorry, motorcycle driving by. We'll let that go. Okay. I know that I can parent them better if I understand how their brain is wired. And if you're a parent, you, I'm sure, know also that you can better parent your child if you understand how his or her brain is wired. And so I would just encourage you to not just rule out the possibility of being able to know that information. I mean, don't type your kid so young and then force that upon them. Maybe you don't even tell them, maybe you don't talk about it with them, but it doesn't hurt for you to know or to suspect what their personality type is, and then to better understand how to best parent that personality type. So you can help your child not just be the best child that he or she can be, but to be the best ENFJ that he or she can be the best ISTP. Don't get so set in your ways that you can't allow them to be something different if you're wrong about their personality type. But understanding a child's personality type, I believe, can help you to parent them better. I know one thing's for sure. I wish I would have understood all of this when my kids were much younger. I think I could have been a much better dad to especially my two oldest kids, if I had known this stuff a long time ago. Anyway, and I might do some series in the future on parenting by personality type, especially the 5 personality types that I have children of. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Let me know what you think, if you think that'd be an interesting video series that you would like to watch or hear. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please give it a like. I do appreciate it. If you would also subscribe, that would be really great. I'm really asking you sincerely if you would please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day. Bye now.